The envelope felt cold in my hands, the kind of cold that seeps right into your bones. I stood alone in the silent, empty house, the bank statement staring back at me, a collection of numbers that told a story I never thought would be mine. All I could think was, my own daughter did this. And in that moment, I had no idea that the hardest part wasn't the missing money, but the decision I had to make next. My life had always been simple, but it was full. For 30 years, I worked as a librarian, finding peace in the quiet rows of books. My husband Michael and I built a modest, happy life. We raised our daughter Chloe in this very house, filling it with laughter and dreams for her future. We scrimped and saved, not for luxuries, but for a rainy day and a comfortable retirement. We were a team. When Michael passed away 5 years ago, the team became two. It was just me and Chloe. The grief bonded us, or so I believed. We'd have long talks over cups of tea, and I'd promise her that everything I had, everything I was for her. I suppose I planted a seed without knowing what kind of plant would grow. Then the unexpected happened. A small investment Michael had made decades ago, almost a forgotten thought, matured into a significant amount. It wasn't billionaire wealth, but it was life-changing. It was security. I paid off the mortgage, and the rest I put into a savings account. For the first time in my life, I felt a profound sense of peace. I could breathe. I told Chloe about it, of course. I saw her eyes widen, a flash of something I didn't recognize at the time. Now I know it was the spark of entitlement. It started with small requests. She needed a down payment for a new car. Hers was so old. Then it was a loan to help with a business course she wanted to take. I was happy to help. This was what the money was for, wasn't it? To help my daughter build her life. But the requests became more frequent, more demanding. A luxury bag she needed for work events. A vacation with friends because she was so stressed. I began to feel uneasy. The peace the money had brought was being chipped away. One afternoon, she came over, her face a mask of excitement. "Mom, you'll never believe it. I found the perfect investment opportunity. A startup run by my friend. It's a sure thing. I just need a little capital from your account. I'll handle everything." I hesitated. "Chloe, that sounds risky." "Let's think about it." Her face fell. The excitement vanished, replaced by a coldness that startled me. "You don't trust me? After all this time, you're going to hoard Dad's money? It's my future, too." The words felt like a slap. We argued, and I stood my ground. I told her no. She left in a fury, and the silence that settled in the house was heavier than any I had known before. That argument was the crack in our world, and the betrayal that followed would shatter it completely. A week later, I went to withdraw some cash for groceries. The transaction was declined. My heart skipped a beat. That couldn't be right. I logged into my bank account online, my fingers trembling. The balance, which should have been substantial, was almost zero. There was one large transfer made 3 days prior to an account I didn't recognize. The amount was everything. I felt the room spin. I called Chloe, no answer. I texted her, nothing. The silence was deafening. Panic set in. How would I pay my bills? How would I buy my medicine? The financial security I had cherished was gone, stolen by the person I loved most. The days turned into a bleak parade of humiliations. I had to call the utility company to ask for an extension. I skipped a doctor's appointment because I couldn't afford the copay. I found myself counting coins to buy a loaf of bread. The worst part wasn't the poverty. It was the loneliness. The phone never rang. The house remained silent. My own daughter had not only taken my money, she had taken my sense of safety, my trust, and my companionship. This is the real cost of betrayal in a family drama like mine. It's not just the numbers in an account, it's the empty space at the dinner table. After 2 weeks of despair, a small brown envelope arrived in the mail. It was from my bank, a statement for an old joint account I'd shared with Michael, one I never used anymore and had completely forgotten about. Out of habit, I opened it. And there it was, a record of a single massive deposit. Made on the same day my main account was emptied. Chloe hadn't just transferred the money to some random account. She had moved it within the bank to an account under our shared names, one where she was still a signatory. She hadn't technically stolen it. She had hidden it. She had assumed that I, in my old age and confusion, would never find it. She was waiting for me to give up, to assume it was lost to some scam, so she could eventually claim it for herself without a fight. In that moment, the emotional story of a grieving mother shifted. The power was no longer in her hands because I knew where my money was. The initial surge of anger was hot and fierce, but it quickly cooled into a solid, unshakable resolve. I would not scream. I would not beg. I would not create a scene. That was not who I was. I sat at my kitchen table, the same table where I had fed her as a child, and I made a plan. My first visit was to the bank manager. I explained the situation calmly without a single tear. I showed him the documents, proved my identity, and had Chloe's access to that old joint account permanently revoked. The money was now safe in an account only I could access. Next, I visited a lawyer. Not to sue my daughter, but to officially rewrite my will. I left a small, trust-bound amount for any future grandchildren, ensuring it could never be accessed by Chloe for her own use. The rest, I decided, would go to a local children's literacy charity. I made sure all the documents were legal, binding, and ironclad. This was my quiet countermove. It wasn't about revenge. It was about restoration and setting a boundary made of stone. I didn't call her. I waited. A month later, my doorbell rang. It was Chloe. She looked tired. "Mom, we need to talk," she said, stepping inside. "I've been thinking about the money. Maybe we can find a compromise. I can help you manage it." I stayed calm. "There's nothing to manage, Chloe," she sighed, a sound full of impatience. "Don't be difficult. I know you're struggling. Just let me help you. Give me access and I'll take care of everything." I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. The little girl I read stories to was gone. "I know what you did," I said, my voice steady. "I found the money you transferred to the old joint account. It's back in my sole control." The color drained from her face. "What? You can't just—" "I already have," I said quietly. "I've also seen a lawyer. My will is changed. The money you were so desperate to get your hands on will go to charity after I'm gone." The shock in her eyes was absolute. This was the consequence she never saw coming. Not a shouting match, but a quiet, dignified reclamation of my own life. There was no dramatic reconciliation. There were no tears of forgiveness. There was only the truth, sitting heavily between us in the quiet living room. She left that day, and our contact since has been minimal and formal. The pain is still there, a dull ache, but the panic is gone. I have my security back. I have my peace. I learned a difficult lesson from this real-life story. Love should not be a blank check for others to write on, and being a mother doesn't mean you have to sacrifice your own well-being on the altar of your child's entitlement. I still love the memory of the daughter I raised, but I have had to let go of the woman she became. The greatest act of love I could offer myself in the end was to say a quiet, firm no more. If this emotional story resonated with you, please share your own thoughts in the comments below, and subscribe for more calm, real-life stories about family, love, and finding the strength to move forward.